Welcome back. Our State House insiders are with us tonight. Our Republican strategist, Dave Wilson, our Democratic strategist, State Democratic Party Chair, Trav Robertson. Thank you so much, guys.
Oh, we have nothing else to do tonight, buddy.
It has been a crazy 24 hours now from Capitol Hill. The House, led by Democrats, voting to impeach President Trump last night. Then we're hearing the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, may not send the articles of impeachment to the Senate for a trial because they're not happy with the way things are being set up over there. So let's just dive in right here. First, let's get your reaction, Dave, to the impeachment.
Okay, so the articles of impeachment basically spell out what they've already been talking about that they're going to be spelling out, which is akin to jaywalking across the street in Columbia, because you're looking for an opportunity to take anything that you possibly can and turn it into high crimes and misdemeanors. The fact that a president turned around and made comments to someone and turned around and also used executive privilege to be able to say, I don't necessarily think I need to send everybody over to you, Congress. There's a check and balance that exists there. And he's basically said, I'm not going to do that.
The oversimplification of that is absolutely mind-numbing. At the end of the day, it boils down to the fact that Donald Trump asked a foreign country and a hostile foreign country to investigate an American citizen. And that's something that's counterintuitive to the values of the people watching this show tonight. And furthermore, if you or JR or me or anybody watching this show gets a subpoena and we decide to ignore that subpoena, we're going to jail, or we're going to end up with some very high legal bills. And the fact is that if we deny Congress, which is spelled out in the Constitution of the United States of America, we deny them the opportunity to investigate matters that fall under their purview, we are in serious constitutional trouble.
So do you have your Constitution in your pocket?
I didn't bring it.
I was wondering if you did or not, because here's what the Constitution says, JR. The Senate is supposed to now get this. The articles of impeachment are supposed to go across, and the Senate is now the jury. There can be no asking of questions if you're the jury, because you're the jury of that case.
That's where Lindsey Graham is about to get into some serious trouble, because in 1999, Lindsey Graham said, when investigating a president for having sex, when he investigated Bill Clinton, he said, we just need the jury of the Senate to be impartial and fair and hear the facts and testimony.
Right.
And now Lindsey Graham refuses to call witnesses. Where's Mitt Mulvaney? Where's John Bolton?
It is not the Senate's responsibility.
It is a cover-up.
No, it is not the Senate's responsibility, Trav, to be able to ask questions. They are the jury. The asking of questions, remember back in '99, was because Lindsey Graham was the House manager.
That's exactly right.
And it was the House of Representatives' responsibility to do the investigation, to ask the questions. It is the responsibility
of the leader of the Senate, the minority party, and the majority party got together and they set forth rules that allowed for an investigation and a fair jury trial to go forward.
You guys are talking about the trial in the Senate. That leads us to the second part of the story today, because late last night into today, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi basically saying she's going to hold off perhaps sending those articles of impeachment to the Senate. Republicans complained because the Democrats set the rules in the House. Now Republicans are complaining, saying that Nancy Pelosi is trying to commandeer the Senate here and set the rules in the Senate.
I said this back there. I said this last month. I said, you watch, because this thing will be stretching itself out well into the election cycle as we get into the early primary states. If this draws itself out, and Jim Clyburn was extremely clear about that on an interview with CNN, when he turned around and said, I don't know when we're going to be able to move them across. It all depends. And so if that's the case, how far are they going to stretch this out?
Once again, you talked about the Constitution just a minute ago. First of all, it is not clear specific in the Constitution as to when those articles are sent to the Senate first. The second part of this is this. You have the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee who impeached a president for having sex, who refuses to have a fair trial over the crimes that this president is accused of. There is a clear reason that Democrats never wanted to go down this path. This was something that they felt compelled. Think about it. You had Democrats who voted for this yesterday who never wanted to talk about this issue. They came here because it was clear in the Constitution. And now we have a Senate that refuses to act as their constitutional duty to remain impartial.
And yes.
McConnell has said he's not impartial. Lindsey Graham, who wanted an impartial jury almost 20 years ago, refuses to be impartial with high crimes and misdemeanors.
20 years ago, because 20 years ago was because what Bill Clinton did was not just about sex; it was about lying under oath. Second part about that is,
well, wait a minute. If you don't have to honor a subpoena by Congress, what does that matter anymore?
Because a subpoena from Congress is different when you're the President of the United States versus lying under oath.
So you heard it right there, JR. You just said that the Republicans who control the White House are not subject to the same laws that the three of us are. That's the problem.
Because the responsibility of the executive branch to be able to exercise executive privilege for the purpose of doing the business of the executive branch is that.
Let's say, theoretically speaking, that last year, the indictment surrounding Richard Quinn and Rick Quinn had gone all the way up to the chief of staff of the governor's office. Could Henry McMaster have said, I'm declaring executive privilege and anything that my chief of staff said is off limits and he's not subject to
We're not talking about impeachment at the state level. We're talking about the United States Constitution.
It is the same thing.
No, because we're talking
you are saying that
the United States Constitution and its application with the President of the United States.
You were saying Republicans are above the law.
No, I'm saying that the executive branch does not have to do everything that the legislative branch does because they're equal bodies.
I don't disagree with that, but the Constitution specifically gives investigative authority and the authority to subpoena to the United States Congress.
Let me jump in here while I got a second here. All right,
Take a breath.
How long can the House hold on to these articles of impeachment? Are they waiting for a Democratic-controlled Senate perhaps to take over next November, Trav?
I don't know. I mean, it's very fascinating. When I had dinner with Speaker Pelosi several weeks ago, I had seen her a week earlier at Congressman Clyburn's wife's passing, and she said, did you ever think we would be where we are in just the span of a week? At the end of the day, this is not something that Democrats want. We remember the fallout from the impeachment during the 90s against Clinton. We don't want this. And my suggestion is, quite frankly, I don't know if it's a suggestion or opinion, people are growing weary. We're getting tired. And at the end of the day, that's something that the leaders in Congress are going to have to take into consideration.
I think that when you take a look at the fact that Nancy Pelosi has given in to the far left wing of her party, and she was not wanting to move towards this, and yet it drifted and drifted and drifted there.
That has nothing to do with left or right. It has to do with upholding the Constitution.
Look at the vote,
it
Trav.
Is fascinating.
Look at the vote, Trav. Was there a Democrat that voted? All the Democrats voted with it.
No, they're wrong. There were three.
There were three that
one
voted.
One voted president and two voted against it.
But were there any Republicans that voted for this?
Of course there weren't. They're towing the party line.
Were there Democrats that voted for the impeachment of Bill Clinton?
Good Lord, I don't remember
that's a part of the history lesson that we're going to have to answer.
But at the end of the day, there are two completely different issues.
All right,
violating the Constitution and lying about sex.
We're less than 2 minutes left in this segment. You both have mentioned Jim Clyburn tonight. He did do an interview with CNN earlier today. He was trending on Twitter this afternoon for words that he used in having a conversation with the CNN anchor. When he was talking about the Senate trial, he used the words in some sort of example, talking about having a public trial and then hanging him in some shape or form. He used those words today. Just 2 months ago, the president under fire for calling the impeachment process a political lynching. It's never good, we were told, to use words like that. Yet today, the House Majority Whip, the 6th District Congressman, said something about having a trial and hanging him, Trav.
And quite frankly, when the three of us were looking at that video prior to taping this, it was a little unclear as to what he said. I had a hard time hearing it. Obviously, I wasn't sure if he was referencing something that he thought Senator McConnell was doing, but at the end of the day, I could not hear what he said at the ending. It said something the reverse of that, it appeared.
It is time to take that type of language out of the mix. If we're going to turn around and blast President Trump for turning around and saying this is a political lynching, which is an aphorism, use of the word without actually being the historic lynching. It is a
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you in taking that language out. There's a clear difference. Jim Clyburn never praised white supremacists, especially white supremacists who killed people in the United States of America in the last year to 2 years.
You think Donald Trump is sitting there applauding the killing of African Americans?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, he applauded and said there were some good people in Charlottesville who actually participated in the hate crimes and the marching on those individuals.
There are people he called
Donald
good people,
Trump,
but he did not call those people who killed African
I
Americans
think you need
good
to go
people.
back. You need to go back and look at your tape, because there are some people listening to this program tonight who are going to disagree with you.
All right, we're going to have to leave things there, guys. Thank you so very much. No insiders next week. It's Christmas.
Happy holidays,
We're all going to
everyone.
get
Merry Christmas,
along,
everybody.
sing Kumbaya,
We're good to go.
all that good stuff.